Hello, friends. It is April 6th, 2022, and I have the pleasure of reviewing one of the most macabre, bizarre albums ever recorded. The primary influences of this record are not musical at all. This is hardly music, as is most Residents. I want most music to be less musical. The Residents, unless you're going to do jazz, I'm not impressed by musical. The Residents understood this on a deep level. The most obvious and specific influence for this album is the writing of Edgar Allan Poe. And it's like a Southern Gothic three-act play about this guy, Mr. X. It's kind of our narrator protagonist. And these twins, these miracle twins. It's unclear to me if they're Siamese twins. They seem to be conjoined somehow. So I assume they're Siamese twins. But it's like written in classical poetry form. It has iambic pentameter. You could read the lyrics to this over the Raven. It has the same rhyme structure, pentameter. It's a genius piece of writing about religion, about non-duality, about sexuality, about good and evil, chaos, just duality versus non-duality. Anyway, it starts with the theme from God in Three Persons, which is very intentionally kind of this like corny presentation. It's like the Cryptic Corporation presents God in Three Persons with the residents and guests. And I guess by guests they mean the girl who sings the female parts or the chorus part. They have female singers that operate like a Greek chorus where they respond or they focus in on one lyric in a particular lyric poem that's also a song because they do put beds of synth and drum machines, usually fairly rudimentary, just to kind of get the point across of this beautiful story that they tell you. So the main title's hilarious, lets you know the theme, the melodic theme that they will like kind of go back to and to do interpolation of as the backgrounds for some of these other things. Some of these songs will have very sparse. It'll be like a guy talking with like a kind of a horror movie kind of trudging noise in the background, but that's it for music. But often they'll hook into like a catchy little riff, and that'll be the background music. But this album, God in Three Persons, is a play. It's a play that you can listen to, like Eskimo. Which, yeah, I don't know. I wish there was more artists that aspired to do different. I guess Kanye wrote a play. That's a terrible play, though. This is a good play. God in Three Persons, great play, as far as plays go. Anyway, after the intro, it's a pretty normal. Hard and Tenderly. Hard and Tenderly starts with this like coiled, ruminative piano echoed with the synth and the female singers. And it just starts to tell the story about Mr. X in Devotion, the following song. Basically, Mr. X, our narrator, he's this southern dude who he seems to be a man of faith, and he finds these two conjoined twins who have healing powers, and he's just drawn to them. And he kind of propositions to be their business manager of like magical Siamese twins. Like they need an agent, I guess. But anyway, he talks about going from the lonely to the only side of the room and being like desiring to touch them. There's a lot of obsession about touch, physical touch in this album. Math's next song is a monologue about Mr. X with weird horn stabs. Mr. X was like, hey, maybe could you teach me some sense to the twins? But, yeah, hey, maybe could you teach me some sense if you love me? But he was broken up and powerless inside because he'd lose his pride were he to not receive love and acceptance. Yeah, okay. So that's what I wrote down as what this is supposed to be about. Basically, Math Song teaches Mr. X, our variable, that he loves these twins as long as they love him, but he feels helpless because it's only okay to be Mr. X when there are these sacred, magical, healing twins that can perform miracles. Then the song, The Thing About Them. Yeah, she smiled. There's one of the twins that Mr. X identifies as female. And she smiles and it burns a hole through him. But he reconciles that he might be able to be apart and together somehow, but he's deeply disturbed by the female twin staring at him and burning him with her perspective, essentially. Their early years, he talks about advice from an old dead man and then describes walking with these children from an orphanage, and they saw a dog with his leg broken off and bloody. And the children placed the broken dog leg between their shoulders and looked on in respect because the dog was barking and licking the stump where they kind of made fun of and avoided this dog before. Now that he's ripped his leg off and they're using it to do chiropractor work, I guess, they know the dog has integrity and they respect it. Three-legged dog. God in three persons. Past, present, future. Man, woman, child, right? Loss of a loved one is just a beautifully written meditation on the death of a lover. He just talks about the emptiness and sorrow, lack of purpose, but he's trying to honor her memory. There's church bells in the synth instrumental residence land, voice manipulated. He concluding sadly, now I see the answer. All her life she was a dancer, but no one ever played the one song she knew. Sadly, now I see the answer. All her life she was a dancer, but no one ever played the one song she knew. Jesus, that is a good lyric. The touch is next. Vibes and synths, and he wants to touch the holy union between the Siamese lover, brother, sister, whatever. And it becomes this pushing match. He starts to try to touch them, and they start to push him back until they envelop him and kind of smother him with their bodies. It's in between the twins. And it fluttered down. The woman's voice comes in, this refrain, Greek chorus device. It fluttered down, the sensation flutters down all throughout his body when he's enveloped by these twins. But he's not really inside of them. He's just being pushed at by them. But he refers to himself as the keeper of the touch. Anyway, then is the service, which starts with the lovely refrain, catchy piano synth. I think you actually need lyrics for the service. So I pushed and pushed and pushed them through the towns and through the bushes. And the word was spreading like a lie. Come and see the holy twosome. They can heal. They can do some things no one ever did before. So they came for holy healing, both the belching and the squealing, and the ones who were maybe just bored. Down the aisle they slowly paraded, while I smiled and masqueraded as the kindly keeper of the touch. Kneeling them along a line, I tapped a tiny piece of pine upon the chin of each and every one. And then from this a copper wire stretched across a tubeless tire and ended in a round and reddish clamp. Then at once these were taken, and the apprehension shaken, for the twins would silently appear, full of love, life, and smiling, knowing that all the while I too was smiling in myself inside. Silently I stood between them, holding up the crimson gleaming circle with the ends now pried apart. Then I lifted up the cover softly like it was my lover, and I felt them shudder as they sighed. As I clamped the metal on it, something like a liquid donut shimmered as the holy union flexed. Then these people screamed and shouted as the donut grew and spouted, little bitty dusty balls made of fire, and these soon enough descended down the lines and finally ended at the screams of joy and pain and fear. For the cripples would be walking and the dummies would be talking, but no one knew exactly how or why. So them doing this creates miracles, but there's no rational way to comprehend how that actually works. You just have to believe in magic. The Holy Twosome. Confused by what I felt inside. If you're confused right now, me too, buddy. So is our narrator. He's given instruction to grab the object, this smooth, shiny thing, but in beholding it, he's overwhelmed by she. He refers to she, like the female of the twins, and he fell into a tangled pile with their bodies and then helped them up, helped himself up, and when everyone got back up, they sensed that they'd like discovered or invented something, but he couldn't say like what happened exactly, and all he felt was confusion. So he repeats, confused by what I felt inside. Then Fine Fat Flies. This is one of the cooler songs musically. I like the synth craziness on this. And Time, the following song. This is the musical peak of the thing. As like, if you want to listen to this as music, this is the most interesting part of the music. But anyway, Fine Fat Flies, he starts to disobey the master, which are his twins, by touching like the bound hands of the woman. For some reason, the woman's hands are bound, and he's strangled, so he can't speak. And then he says he identifies with the flies. This becomes a chorus, him identifying with flies. And then they started convulsing, and he says, basically it's dangerous to play these touch games if you're too young to understand what's happening. Time is Wild is just Residents' piano, synth, drum loop, dark, instrumental craziness that if you listen to the Residents, you love, but if you don't, I don't know how to describe. Silver, Sharp, Silver, Sharp, and Silver. Is that the title of the fucking song? Silver, Sharp, no, and Could Not Care. Silver, Sharp, and Could Not Care. It's a dark, repetitive loop, and the story continues. The man is nervously purchasing a knife. Like his hands are sweaty, shaking, because the twins and their perfect union is driving him insane. So, this like horror movie score, and it's like he's buying a knife because he's gonna like, we don't know, kill the twins, kill himself, he's nervous buying a knife. This is a scary part of the play. Lies will often give you power, like a coffin filled with flowers. Give life to the living, not the dead. That's a good lyric. Kiss of Flesh starts, and it's almost over. The chorus literally sings, it's almost over. Over like a variation of the main theme for the play. Just to be like, it's almost over. This is the third act of the play. This time, we were not there for devotion. He says, it starts out with this scary kind of musical backdrop, but then the second plotting kind of horror movie churning noise as he's met with like laughter and mockery. He basically, my interpretation of this, it's not that clear, is he attempts to rape the female twin and cut her from the male twin. So he's trying to violently rape and potentially kill. I don't know if they die, if they're separated, but he's trying to, anyway, force himself on the female twin because they keep mocking him. But when he does this, he separates them with the knife, and he starts to do this bloody rape. I'm unclear if he's like castrating himself because there's like blood with his penis. Anyway, they start to mock him still. They're like, don't you say there is no she now? Don't you say there is no she now? Don't you say there is no she? This is the refrain of the chorus. 40 years ago. Non-binary. It's all there. Androgynous hermaphrodites. There is no female. That's the conclusion of this song. They were both. Both the man and the woman are neither male nor female. And that drives him even more crazy, I think. Because he was just trying to chase the sacred female. And the reality is there's nothing sacred, and there's no such thing as female. It's all about non-duality. So to stop the screaming voices in his head, he tried to violently separate the twins and rape the female one, but it was kind of in futility. Pain and Pleasure is next. Sounds like kind of a jazzy, bluesy thing. Still obsessed about the twins. Still obsessed about the connection between pain and pleasure. I think pain and pleasure are the twins, what they represent. And it's this internalized trauma of birth, death, sex, pursuit of God. The Trinities, the Holy Trinities. This is why it's in three persons. This is why acts are in three places. This is why we perceive time as having three temporal. That's why we see colors. We see yellow, we see blue, and we see red. This is why a mother and a father are needed to co-sign off on a new life. And these people are imprinted by the trauma of that. The last lyric on this is by, and I realized that all our lives we love illusion, neatly caught between confusion and the need to know we are alive. And I realized that all our lives we love illusion, neatly caught between confusion and the need to know we are alive. That's a CD that you can buy. If you still have a CD player, you have a PS something, you can stream it for free. Everything's free. You don't have to buy a thing. I used to give the residents money for things. They don't sell things anymore. Ralph store? Sorry. I wanted I feel like the Cryptic Corporation would be killing it right now. In the fucking post-pandemic. Anyway, we're at 17. Hare Krishna. Buy my fragrances for fuck's sake.